So today our topic of discussion is water pollution. So first of all, we are going to discuss about the consequences of water pollution. There are basically two consequences. One is uh, raw sewage, raw sewage from home that is basically discharged into the rivers and sea. And as you know, the raw sewage from home that basically consists of bacteria and viruses which pollutes the water. And the other main reason of water pollution is the waste that is basically discharge waste that is discharge from industries. And the waste that is discharged from industries that basically consist of detergents, bleach, fabric softener, and the other is chemicals. So there are certain chemicals in industrial waste which are nitrates, phosphates, lead, and mercury. The most harmful metal among them is basically lead and mercury. Why they are most harmful? Because they are unable to decompose into harmless substances. So lead and mercury, they basically play the major role in polluting the water. Okay. So now, boys, there is an other thing which also affects the chemistry of water is the hot water. Hot water that is discharged into rivers and seas from industries. In industries, whenever water whenever industries take water from river, okay, then what happens, they basically utilize the water for heat exchanging purposes. Okay, they basically utilize the water to decrease the temperature of the system, and then they discharge the hot water without any treatment to river and seas. And how does that hot water affects the aquatic life? We are going to discuss that. Okay, as you know that water absorb oxygen at a certain temperature. So whenever hot water get mixed with the river and sea, then what happens, they basically changes the chemistry of water. The oxygen which is absorbed in the water, that is basically discharged into the atmosphere, and the availability of oxygen for the aquatic life decreases, and that basically affects the aquatic life beneath the water. Okay. So the next thing that we are going to discuss is farming activities. That how does farming activities pollutes the water? Boys, as you know that about the fertilizers, we are going to discuss basically two types of fertilizers, which are phosphate and nitrates. So whenever we give fertilizers to the plants for their proper growth, then what happens when the water mixes with these fertilizers, then whenever they discharge into the rivers and sea, then what happens, they basically promote the growth of plants on the surface of river or sea. So whenever plants grow on the surface of river or sea, then what happens, then they basically block the sunlight. And for example, this is sun, and whenever sunlight gets blocked and sunlight is unable to reach under the surface, then there are the aquatic life which are present beneath the water, they get die. Okay, they get die because they are unable to prepare their food by the process of photosynthesis. Okay, so because of that reason they die, and this process is called as eutrophication. Now what happens when these plants die, they basically starts to decompose, and they starts to utilize the oxygen for the decomposition purposes, and they decrease the already less amount of oxygen, and they decrease them further. So basically the fertilizers, they basically promote the growth of plants at the surface, and they block the sunlight to reach beneath the water, and because of that the aquatic life they die. And now we are going to discuss something about soil erosion, that how does it affects the uh, so now we are going to discuss about the soil erosion, that how does it affects the water. As you know, because of the deforestation, what happened, the soil that is previously held together by roots, whenever they enter into the river, they pollute the water. Because of deforestation, what happens, the soil gets entered into the river, and they affect the soil, they affect the water and pollute the water. The other is oil pollution. Was, as you know, oil that drips from vehicles and equipments. Or you people also know about the offshore drilling. Offshore drilling is a process by which we extract the crude oil from the sea. Okay, and what happens, that they also get discharged into the sea, and they also pollute the water. Ships also discharge oil into the sea, and that also affects the aquatic life. The last consequences that we are going to discuss is mining activities. After mining, some metals which are left behind openly are sulfur, zinc, and cadmium, which are left behind openly. whenever they enter into the river, they also pollute the river. And now boys, I have also made some notes for you for your betterment. Okay, like you can see these notes, and you can also write down these notes by pausing the video. Okay, I hope these notes are beneficial for you, and if you have any question regarding this video, then you can ask from me by commenting below. Okay, thanks.